Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Demon Slayer. Last time around we had things are gonna get flashy. They're gonna get real flashy. Real flashy? Wait, I just put flashy. Okay, guess I'm gonna have to go fix that in the title at some point. Anyway, yeah, things are gonna get real flashy. Tanjiro is fighting Daki and is he's still alive. There's that. Yeah, his sword is already getting chipped because he still can't master water breathing. But you know, Hinokami Kagura is still too hard. And then Inosuke found Zenitsu, and then also found two of Uzui's wives, and then he showed up, and now they're gonna go fight. Yeah. I'm very tired all of a sudden, so I think I need to start the episode and down some caffeine, so... Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure, so let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of Demon Slayer. Here we go. Man, they couldn't do a Taisho era secret while they were running. Oh well. I like how, honestly, it almost feels like that's a legitimate part of the story. Is like every 25 minutes or so, they stop and say a Taisho era secret, you know? I don't know, or like this is a play that's happening, and it's like, tune in next week. I don't know why you don't tune into plays that fell apart, doesn't matter. Well, that was a thing. Tanjiro got a Gohan Rage Amp, and Nezuko unlocked her big booby form. You know, I've been watching too much Chainsaw Man, I think. Because now I just say that so casually now, but I mean, that's essentially what it is. She's got her freaking dummy thick form now. So, yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. You know, this definitely feels more like... Okay, I think my mindset of this fight has been incorrect, you know? Because I need to be watching this like the fight with Rui, you know? Where, like, yes, you know, we did have the hope that eventually Tomioka would show up, but for a while... it was pretty much just Tanjiro versus Rui, you know? And that's so great. But I think after that, and then because we had Rengoku versus Akaza, now, like, I've been sitting here this whole fight being like, alright, and when's Uzui gonna get there, you know? And that's not quite the mentality I need to be having. I need to be having the mentality that, oh, hey, maybe... Our protagonist can win the day, or at least get significantly far, and here he got significantly far. Even after she transformed, he had his freaking Rage Amp, which was crazy. And yeah, that was something. Man, oh god. One of these days they're gonna reveal everything about his dad, but man, I just want to know. I just want to know already, you know? Because it's like, why? Was his dad actually a demon slayer? And if so, I guess, you know, did he face Kibutsuji? But why didn't he kill him, you know? Unless the only thing I can think is it's similar to this, you know, where he did have this sort of power, you know? He had power, like maybe, you know... maybe his power was so great, you know, like Tanjiro, but even more so. But maybe that's what made him sick, you know? It could entirely be that's what made him sick, is mastery over Hinokami Kagura, it destroyed him, you know? Because, I mean, look at Tanjiro in this episode, just with how much he was using Hinokami Kagura, plus the rage amp, and he lost it, you know? He absolutely lost it, because at the last second, it finally dawned on him that he forgot to breathe, you know? He forgot to breathe, and all of that, like, it's basically like, you know, I mean, it's kind of like, maybe you could sort of, you know, comparing it to Zenitsu, it's kind of like sleepwalking of, like, you know, when Zenitsu wakes up, all of that is pretty much gone from him, you know? Like, all that coolness is pretty much gone from Zenitsu. And here, it is sort of like that, where, like, he finally, like, he woke up in the middle of that rage amp, and because of that, everything wrong with him came crashing down, you know? Oh, Jiminy Christmas, man. We did also hear about the scar, which was interesting. That people who are destined to be sun breathers are born with that scar. The problem is, Tanjiro was not born with that scar, and I'm glad they finally gave an explanation as to what it was originally. That originally it was just a burn from when he was younger, and then it was during final selection that, you know, that got hit, and afterwards became, you know, his iconic scar, you know? Because that's an interesting thing, is you start off with what we assumed originally was a birthmark, but then the fact that it completely changes by episode 4 is such an interesting, like, design choice, but I'm glad they explain it here, you know? But yeah, he was not born with that, but I like how, you know, it's like, oh, I might not be one of the chosen ones, you know? I may not have been chosen, but I'm gonna choose myself, you know? I'm gonna do this myself. I really enjoy that. Like, that's really cool. Because, again, there's a part of me that's like, okay, you know, the ultimate goal of this show is going to be Tanjiro versus Kibutsuji, you know? That's where the show is going to end. We pretty much all know it, you know? And here, more than in something like, you know, My Hero Academia, where it's like, okay, so where does My Hero Academia end? It's like, well, you know, you'd be forgiven for thinking for a long time that it's Deku versus Shigaraki. That's how it's going to end. Then they throw you some curveballs. Most of them are garbage. Anyway, but this time, it is definitely, you know, it's Tanjiro versus Kibutsuji. Kibutsuji is 1,000 years old and so much more powerful than all of his upper rank demons. Upper rank demons upon which Tanjiro can barely fight. You know, he couldn't fight Akaza, you know? Now, someone did point out, because, you know, Crunchyroll doesn't give translations for the Japanese text, because why would they? It's not like that's their job. But someone pointed out that in Daki's eyes, you know, you see her rank, and translated, it says lower 6. So she is the lowest of the upper rank demons. You know, Akaza is, because I think he was upper 3. So he's 3 places ahead of her, you know? And Tanjiro was able to defeat lower 1, which would be the rank just below Daki. So, like, I guess if we're talking, basically I'm trying to talk in power scaling, you know? Which is honestly one of the most fruitless things you can do in anime, you know? But yeah, like, if we're going off of power scaling, like, okay, Tanjiro, he couldn't measure up to Akaza, whom Rengoku could, you know? He can measure up to lower 1, at least, because we did see that, you know? Perhaps, now with this Rage Amp, he is measuring up to upper 6, you know? So that's the thing, but the Hashira are all up here. And I think the point that I was trying to make 3 minutes ago when I started this whole tangent is, you know, how are we going to get Tanjiro so far up, you know? How are we going to get Tanjiro so far up to eventually we get to the ending of the show where, all right, here we go. It's Tanjiro versus, and you can make an argument. It's probably Tanjiro and Nezuko versus Kibutsuji, but we have to connect to that point basically. So at first I was kind of thinking, okay, so we got a Rage Amp, He got a Rage Amp, and I was thinking, okay, now is that cheating? Because one thing I like in these shows is, a hero. It's basically you want the hero to do it all on his own merit, Because even something like, even when you go back to something like, Super Saiyan or something like that, like Goku did earn Super Saiyan, Like the fight he had with Frieza was ridiculous, and he barely stood up at like Kaioken times 20 to Frieza. Then he gets Super Saiyan, and it's still not like he doesn't just wash Frieza at that point, So even Super Saiyan he does earn, and from there you get pretty much after the initial Super Saiyan beginning, every fight afterwards you still have to figure out. You still have to train and figure it out and get stronger and everything. And it's the same thing recently in my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reactions. I won't go into specifics if you haven't watched it, but there is a moment towards the end of, I'll go ahead and say, towards the end of part 5, where JoJo, the whole thing in JoJo is every fight is a fight of, a battle of wits. It's a puzzle. You have to figure out your opponent. And at the end of part 5, they kind of drop that, and I don't really care for it, Or you go to My Hero Academia. A lot of fights in My Hero Academia where Deku is always on the back burner. This boy, I don't want to say he's terrible, But he's really got to pull out the big brain maneuvers in order to win, Like, there's not many times, I mean, there's one or two, but there are not many times where he just, he got stronger, and now he wins, And that's kind of what I'm thinking with Tanjiro, is like, okay, does the Rage Amp kind of undo this? And I don't think it does. The Rage Amp kind of works. Now, I think maybe the sort of issue I have is because the transition between water breathing and Hinokami Kagura, I feel like has not been as smooth as they want it to be, Because even in last episode where it's like, I haven't mastered water breathing, that's why my sword is chipping, and I'm just like, really? I thought you had water breathing down pretty well, Yes, Hinokami Kagura is something stronger, but I thought you had water breathing down pretty well, Like, that's just another thing a stronger thing that you can access in tandem with your water breathing, But here it's like, well, can't do that. Fire, sun, it's like, okay, I mean, I guess. And the Rage Amp, because see, the other thing with the Rage Amp is, while it also, the Rage Amp and the Nezuko's big booby form, which is what I'm going to call it from now on, apparently, while those do kind of come out of nowhere, it's like, okay, well, Nezuko hadn't had this power before, like, I don't know, maybe she could have fought Akaza, although she was still, on the train, maybe she could have fought Akaza, or, I mean, maybe not, or, why didn't, you could argue, well, why didn't she use this against Rui, but there's obviously a progression. Her just starting off with her Blood Demon art probably is what led to her being able to do this now, so it's one of those things of, do these sort of come out of nowhere? Yes, in the sense of, that's the cliffhanger. Oh my god, she's got her big booby form. What's going to happen, But at the same time, it does sort of, I guess, what am I trying to say? It works because I'm sure we're going to explore more of this. We're going to explore Nezuko's big booby form. I'm going to regret calling it that at some point, if I haven't already. We're going to explore more about this. We're going to explain more about this. Obviously, there's still a mystery surrounding Tanjiro's father, And so, I don't know. I don't know if you understand anything that I'm talking about in this discussion, honestly. But yeah, it's like I'm trying to like rationalize it in my head. It's like, okay, is this a cheap power up to, to get Tanjiro closer to our end goal instead of naturally, which is what you want. You want him to naturally progress. I mean, he even said just a couple episodes back, it's like there is no shortcut for this, if he basically said if he's going to master Hinokami Kagura and sun breathing, he needs to master it himself, so there are no shortcuts. But now I'm looking and it's like, well, is that a shortcut? I would say no, because I think we need to know more about it, because we're just starting it. It's like we need to see a bit more of it, And the fact that it also didn't work does also help. Like, if he just got this rage amp and then won, I would have been like, okay, well, that happened. That came out of nowhere. It was cool, but it kind of came out of nowhere, I like, though, that he did lose. It did all catch up with him. And it's like, okay, it's something. We can think about this whole rage amp thing, and maybe we can come back to this at another point. But it was a good start. And Nezuko's big booby form, we'll just have to figure that out. We'll have to figure out what's going to happen there, I still imagine that this is going to end with Uzui defeating Daki, but yeah. So that was a lot. That was a lot of talk about... I'm not even sure if I made any sense in that, but yeah. Basically, it's me trying to rationalize, yes, the rage amp is okay, and yes, big booby form is also okay. So, yeah. Yeah, I figured it out. Good job. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Demon Slayer reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.